All right, now we know about money demand. This is how much money people want to hold at different interest rates. We know about money supply. And we're going to assume that the Federal Reserve sets the money supply and can increase the money supply or decrease the money supply by doing either open market operations, changes in the required reserve ratio, or changes in the discount rate. But, like any other market, we can look at the intersection of supply and demand, and that'll tell us the quantity of money being held and traded in the market, so how much money is out there, and it'll tell us the equilibrium interest rate. So, in the money market, our price is interest rates and our quantity is money. We have a demand curve, we have a supply curve, and we get to equilibrium. This becomes a very powerful idea when we think about what happens when the Federal Reserve changes the money supply. Suppose the Federal Reserve does an open market purchase. Now we know an open market purchase is when the Fed buys government securities, increasing reserves and thus increasing the money supply. That shifts the money supply to the right, and that decreases interest rates. If the Federal Reserve does an open market sale, this decreases reserves, decreases the money supply, shifting it to the left, and increasing interest rates. So we can see that the Federal Reserve, by using its tools of changing the money supply, can influence interest rates. Another way to think about this is by looking at a relationship between interest rates and bond prices. Remember, open market operations are purchases and sales of U.S. government bonds and securities. So when you are increasing the supply and or the demand, you're going to affect the price of bonds. Well, a relationship we know and we can look at when we look at the relationship between the price of bonds and interest rate is a bond is a promise to pay a certain amount of money in the future. The price of the bond is equal to that promised payment divided by 1 plus the interest rate. In other words, it's the present value of that promised payment. Given that, we can see that the price of a bond and the interest rate of a bond are inversely related. An increase in the price is going to decrease the interest rate. A decrease in the price increases interest rates. So, if there's an open market operation which directly affects bond prices, anything that raises bond prices is going to decrease interest rates. Anything which decreases bond prices raises interest rates. So if we have an open market purchase, if the Federal Reserve is buying bonds, that's an increase in the demand for bonds. That raises the price of bonds, driving interest rates down. Another factor we can look at when we look at the money market is good news for the economy is often bad news for bond prices. Because as we saw when we looked at money demand, if there's an increase in income, this increases money demand. That's going to increase interest rates. This increase in interest rates is going to drive bond prices down.